All right, so here's my little baby bulldozer, the D3. So that's our culprit right there. I was able to get these from Hercules Sealing Products within like a few days. I think I just peeled the rubber right out of the metal. That is not the right piece. The guy looked at me like I was crazy. He had no idea what it was. Yeah, baby, leverage. Now you do it just like you paint your nails, right? I was moving it, literally just getting it. This hydraulic line right there blew. So plan is to pull that one out. I think we'll pull this one out. This one looks rough. That one looks rough. Those two are definitely looking rough. Then on this side, these two actually look pretty good. They've been replaced. Looks like it's missing the cover that would kind of clamp them down. But they're newer. I don't think that they need to be replaced. This one and that one need to be replaced. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines we're gonna do just to kind of have it all done, and then, you know, be able to test this machine out and try and figure out how well it works. So this machine, having been set out for so long, it's just one of those deals where at this point, let's just get them all done and move on. Let's get some panels out of the way. There's the other end of those hoses. So right there is where it blew it out, right where it was contacting that cover. So it just kind of wore a hole through it, and then the years of sitting just caused it issues. So all right, almost got it. Already got the one in front of it. Okay, there we go. So that's our culprit right there. Those two out. Got these two for this cylinder here out. Now we're going to work on those two right there. There we go. We got both sides of this one. Let's get something to put on these caps. There we go. Here we go. So that rusty one goes on the bottom, and this one goes on the top. All right, I got all 10 hoses off. I went ahead and took off these two hoses that were newer looking, G and H here. And if they're not ridiculously expensive, I'd probably get new ones of those too, just so that I know all of them are good, both inside and out. Because what can happen, and usually what happens, is they rust from the inside out. A lot of times you get water in the lines or something, the metal lining that is below the rubber will start to get a crack in it and then eventually rot out and then burst, even if the line looks good. So we'll see what it costs, but for now we're going to at least get the other 8 made. There's a total of 10 here. We got A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, that's it. All right, well, we got the hoses made. Got them all zip tied to their counterpart. And I went ahead, I got the front ones done. And these two here on this side were probably okay, but I went ahead and had them done. They were only $30 a piece. So the $60, I now know that they're all 10 hoses are gonna be reliable. So I am happy about that. Happy to get them thrown in and then we'll move on to the next issue with this machine. Okay, so this is my 1970s Caterpillar D3, and it has a few issues, one of which is the linkage that engages the forward, neutral, reverse is broken. Throttle doesn't work very well. Something's going on with some of the hydraulics, and it will only steer on one track. One of them is locked up, the clutch is locked up somehow, I'm not quite sure yet, but I want to work on this winter, and there is built up dirt and grease all around where these hydraulic cylinders are. Something's definitely going on near the injection pump, and the valve cover gasket looks like it's totally gone. So I'd like to get all of this cleaned up so come winter time I can go ahead and use it. This is a D3 6N0475 made in Japan. It's got a 3204 cat diesel, and the undercarriage is beautiful, absolutely amazing, very, very little use. Got the pressure washer out. Let's start getting this thing clean.
This is basically the forward, neutral, reverse selector rod from the D3. And basically what happened was this end here got locked in there and wouldn't move. It should move like this. So basically it's like a ball in there that allows you some range of motion. And this one got completely locked up and snapped off. So it basically would have looked like that. There was a nut on it. So this nut here was something like that. Now, the bolt itself has come out and is loose, but I'm really debating on what I want to do here, because I have these two, and I've been soaking all this in penetrating oil. I have these two here. This one's a little bit less free than this one, but it's the opposite of this. This has a bolt that goes into it. This is the bolt. And so this style would be better because it allows for the adjustment this way. The other side works fine. It's free and moving. The adjuster nut is loose. I don't know. I'm gonna mess with this for a few minutes, see what I can do. So I can get it to move finally, but I think also what's happened is it's being pinched by this outer ring. because at some point it got maybe hit or damaged. I don't know. I'm going to clean this up on the wire wheel, and then we're going to take a look at it again. Alright, got it free. Wire wheeled it, put it in the vise, moved it around. Now it's free enough, it's moving. I do not want to reuse this little chunk of metal. It's like it's hollow. I do not know why it's hollow, but that looks to me like a reason it failed. So I did find this bolt that properly threads in here. And the nut fits on it as well. And if I line up the threads that are broken, this bolt, the threads that are available is almost identical in length. What I think I'm going to do is we're going to cut it like right here, and then we're going to weld that onto the rod, and should give us the same length as what we've already got to be able to work with. So that should work. And then you still have the adjustability of this going in and out on that side, and same with this going in and out of that on that side. And we'll just save these for another project. There we go. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grind the head of the nut down so that it'll fit into that tube. Down. It doesn't fit all the way in there, which is fine. Gives me something to weld around. Good enough for me. Let's get the welder fired up. It might help to ground it. All right, I'm gonna grind that up. Should be perfect. That'll work for me. All right, there we go. Got it all welded. That whole head back on, got the lock nut back on. Yeah. I'll hit the ends with some spray paint once we get it in there, but we're gonna go put it in. So there's that end, and the other end is over on the other side. All right, so as I move forward, neutral, reverse,
that will shift us. That's reverse. It's forward. I think we need to adjust it. So there's a neutral. It's only going into one reverse. We need to change that. All right, so I got the linkage in. Basically, it goes from right here over to right there. Where my finger is. So this lever here is the selector for forward, neutral, reverse. Basically, right here is neutral. Bring it over here and down is reverse. Back up and over. Then you got forward 1, 2, and then 3. And I had to grind this deeper here and here because, so I had to grind that a little bit deeper in these slots because some of the linkages are just kind of sloppy and it wasn't allowing me to get all of the gears. I'm pretty sure it should have 2 reverse and 3 forward gears, and I still don't think I've got it right. I've been adjusting there's an end here that you can adjust, and then you can adjust the other end. I still cannot get it right, but that is a problem for another day. I'm not going to mess with it right now. We got that linkage fixed and in there. I need to clean out all this aluminum dust, get it all out of there. The big goal was to try and get it so that I can have forward, neutral, reverse. So this winter, when I want to move it and pull it in, I can do that. So another issue I fixed was the blade would not tilt like this. And what happened was I replaced that hydraulic line, this line, those 2 lines, the 2 lines up there, and the same on the other side. And I marked them and thought I had it all figured out. Well, come to find out, I had these 2 hydraulic lines wrong. And so they were basically sending hydraulic fluid the wrong way when it was asking for it. So I swapped those 2 lines, and now the blade tilts and angles perfectly. Big downside though is, and this was already the case because before I pressure washed this, there was a huge puddle of dirt right there and grease. That cylinder is absolutely in need of a rebuild. Same with the cylinder over there. So I don't think I made it any worse having swapped those hydraulic lines on accident, because the second it stopped working, I stopped messing with it. And the more I got to thinking about it, I messed with it a little bit, and I saw that that far cylinder would try and go out, and this one here wouldn't do anything. So in doing that, I thought, okay, well, this cylinder's not working right. So I swapped those 2 lines right there, started it back up, and boom, that cylinder started working perfectly. Other than pouring out hydraulic fluid out of there, and the opposite one is also pouring out hydraulic fluid. This lift cylinder for the blade does leak, so I probably will rebuild that one. And honestly, the other one over there does a little bit, and I don't think this one really doesn't. But I might start with the 4 for the lift and for the tilt, and go from there. I guess it's not tilt, it's more basically your angle. Either way, we got it looking good. It's nice and pressure washed. I now know why there was a huge chunk of like built up oil and grease around the injection pump here. Right where the throttle shaft goes in, there's a seal, and you can see it, that green and gray seal. Fuel is pouring out of there. And so I gotta figure that out. There's definitely got to be some sort of a leak coming out of the valve cover, because that whole area was just covered in built up oil and grease. The other thing is the throttle itself, it doesn't really get high enough. It doesn't seem to me. So even when it's all the way forward, let me turn the throttle on. So that your throttle here, and this is also how you kill the engine, is this. So you turn it all the way this way, and then that's your throttle. And then to kill the engine, turn it like that. So if I go all the way, so basically full throttle. So if we come down here and we look at this, it's on full throttle. There's like a little bit of slop in that pin. And it looks like maybe I've got some adjustment here where I could, what do I need to do here? If I want more throttle, I guess it has to push it further out. So I could bring this knuckle out some. So this is the cable, and the cable goes back all the way to right here, this mechanism. So when you turn and you kill the engine, there's like this, I'm not exactly sure what that is. Some sort of a shaft. And then I guess maybe there's an adjustment right here. I guess you could adjust this shaft as well. I don't know, I haven't messed with that much. I have to dig into it, but if you know how to adjust the throttle on one of these D3 or the style that has this kind of throttle, let me know. I don't have a manual for this machine yet, so I'm just figuring it out as I go. But for now, we'll leave it off, lock it there. So yeah, and then these controls, this is your blade up and down. This is your tilt side to side as far as the angle of the blade. And then this far one is your angling the blade like this. So when you're sitting here, all we have is the 3 pedals. So you got your left turn, your right turn, and then I believe this is a transmission disconnect, essentially, a transmission brake. Essentially, it disconnects the transmission from the tracks. A transmission brake, maybe. I'm not sure exactly what the term is, but it essentially will stop both at the same time. And maybe the more I look at it, it might just literally operate both levers at the same time. So yeah, maybe that thing's not any different. It literally looks like it just pushes on both of those cylinders. Because right down there, there's a tiny little cylinder right there. And another one right there, and that's what you push on. So the initial push is on that little thing, and then the whole thing goes further and pulls on a mechanism down in the transmission. Yeah, the more I look at this, I don't think this is like a transmission brake. It literally just pulls both brakes at the same time. Because there's no additional mechanisms. It's also your parking brake, it looks like. Because there's a tooth bar down there. Right now, only this one works. So I can literally, in forward, only turn right, in reverse, back up left. So I need to figure out if something's going on there with that little transmission mechanism, or maybe it's low on oil, or the clutches are stuck. I don't know. So that's the major problems with this thing. It's not a lot. And once we can figure those things out, man, we're gonna have an awesome little machine. I am totally excited. Maybe get a new seat. That seat's pretty rough. Totally pumped to have this little guy. A little baby bulldozer. So on the little baby D3 dozer, the seat has always been kind of disconnected. Both the back and bottom cushions, and then the whole brackets only got the front 2 bolts holding it. So we're gonna do something about that today. So I got a brand new seat, and it is in much nicer condition. It's a suspension seat. That one was not. So let's yank that out, and we'll plop this in there and see how it looks. Need to get some vice grips real quick to that one. There we go. Looks nice there. Yeah. Get to the controls, pedal. There would have been an armrest on either side, right here and right here, but they fell apart. They were just rotten. About as bad as the seats, probably a little worse, but this will be nice. Suspension, cool. All right, next up, we have to tear into pretty much every hydraulic cylinder on this machine. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And so I've got kits for all those. There's also the track tensioners, and I've got kits for the track tensioners. I'm not sure if we're going to get to that right now. The tracks seem to be tensioned a little bit loose, but I haven't actually adjusted them at all. But I got the kits just in case. They weren't real expensive. I was able to find pretty much every kit at Hercules. Hercules Sealing Products is an awesome company, and they had every kit that I needed. I actually really enjoy rebuilding hydraulic cylinders. I'm not exactly sure why, but I don't know. Let's jump into it. As you can see here, this cylinder has been leaking. I've got these pig mats down here to be able to absorb all the oil. And I don't know if you know, but these white pig mats will only absorb oil. They will not absorb like rainwater. So you can leave them outside and they don't end up getting just waterlogged, which is awesome. But you can see here, that one, it's leaking all over there. And obviously you can definitely see the leak all over there. That pig mat down there is just absolutely soaked. That cylinder is leaking. So same with this. You see the leak right there. Same on the other side. So the way that these come apart, and I actually tested on this one just to make sure that it would do it. You've got a set screw, and then you put a pipe wrench on the big nut here. And that one broke free real easily, actually. So we're going to start with that guy, and then we're going to work our way around. I don't know when the last time that thing saw grease. It is dry as a bone. It's not pitted though, and there's not really any wear in it. So that's good. I got a pan down below to catch this oil. I guess I'm just gonna make a mess. Alright, here's how I'm going to pull it apart. I've got a strap through here, chain around the blade, and a come along, and we're going to ratchet it that way. Got this bucket to catch stuff there, and then these to not ruin this rod here. So let's see how this works. That did not work. I am just moving the blade and that chain. So, see if I can find something else. It's moving. I'm very sophisticated, but it would work better with a different hammer, but I really don't want to beat this up. That's the gap right there you gotta watch. Alright, so I got the strap hooked back up to it, and I'm going to try and yank it. I've got it hooked to the bottom of the blade. I was actually able to get under it. I didn't think I could, but I did. So, I'm going to ratchet it, hope we can get that last packing out. There we go. Alright, now we got to get this nut loose, or this bolt, or whatever it is. Best way to do it is put it back together, and that gives you something to hold it. Now we can get a wrench or an impact on that. Alright, it's 1.5 inches. Bolt, or I think it's a bolt. There we go. Alright, we'll take this inside and rebuild it. Alright. Here's our rod. And so essentially, if you don't know, this is the nut for the cylinder. This here would be basically the gland, and this would be the piston itself. And there's seals here in the actual gland, and there's seals in the piston. This nut, I'm pretty sure, has no seals in it at all. So let's get this taken apart, and then we can pull all the pieces off. A lot of times these are fine, but you know, because they never see any actual water, or they never see a lot of the stuff on the debris side of it where the wiper is. Now, when you replace you know, you're going to rebuild it, you rebuild it all. You just do it all at once. This is where you tend to have your problems. These seals get hard and they start to break down. And these are not, this one is not junk, but this one also wasn't leaking like some of the others. So, and then here's our nut. Look at this rod, make sure there's no major damage to it, no scratches or scoring. Feels really good. I don't feel anything. That's in good shape. Only thing we might look at on that is I might measure this bushing. Since we have it apart, I might see if we need to replace it because it felt a little bit loose. All right, before I tear this apart too much, let's just compare this seal kit. So I was able to get these from Hercules Sealing Products within like a few days. They had it in stock and ready to go. That is a beast of a wiper seal. I'm not even sure what that is. Where's that one go? Maybe down below that? It might go right like that. Huh. That's like a bearing surface, like almost a bronze. And there might be something in there like that, I can't quite tell. Put these O-rings off, get this, oh, that ring just disintegrated. So that looks right. So this thing coming off in pieces is called the backup ring. What it does is it allows or prevents the O-ring from squishing out. It keeps it so that it faces the pressure. That looks right. And these are going to be for the piston. Looks like it's got a interesting, and I don't know if you call that an openable, but it basically, the outer seal opens. I've never seen that. And then it's got an O-ring under there. That looks right. And that looks right. Okay. New, old. Let's see here. New, old. Try and keep them matched up and laid out so that I know where they are and which is what goes where. So this bearing here, this just rides on the inside of the cylinder and keeps the metal of the piston from contacting it. Just make sure this fits. Perfect. I'm going to take it back off for now because I want to clean this all up. So that's all that's in this. Literally, it just has that bearing, an O-ring, and an outer sleeve. This one has shrunk. This inner seal has definitely gotten smaller. On the OD, it was moving around in there. So that one is definitely right. I don't know if I've got this piece. That is not the right piece. Alright. It's okay. A big chunk of paint in there that was just sitting probably right on that seal when it got installed. Probably been there forever. I think I just peeled the rubber right out of the metal. I did. Alright, so there's the metal. So yeah, that's definitely going to be the right outer lip seal. Alright, I went ahead and cleaned up the piston itself. This will be easy to rebuild. Pop that bearing on there. This O-ring in. Just like that. Make sure it's not all twisted. Boom. That is the piston rebuilt. Alright, so I just really quickly ran to the local hydraulic shop to see if they had this. The guy looked at me like I was crazy. He had no idea what it was. And so every time I go there, I literally feel like I am an inconvenience to this man. So I just don't go there anymore. It is unfortunate I don't have a local hydraulic shop that can help me out, but the guys at Hercules Sealing Products have been awesome. So I thought, you know what, let's look at the kit a little bit more. So I saw these two pieces and thought, okay, well, these don't fit. But this does go over the rod. It's tight, but it goes. And then this piece actually fits around the outside of it. And so I thought to myself, okay, well, that is the same size as this. See that? It is. The rubber, the black O-ring part is not the same thickness, but the inner piece is exactly the same thickness. So I pulled out the catalog, started doing some looking, and I thought, okay, first off, I'll show you kind of the process. You kind of go in here, and they have pictures of pretty much every single type of seal. So I started flipping through. See, I'm not sure which page it was on. Yeah. So I was just looking. And then boom, right there, I see rod buffer seals. And it looks exactly like this. So then above it, rod buffer seals, Caterpillar specific ones, rod buffer seals. So what I think this is essentially, from what I was reading, a buffer. So when a spike in pressure happens in the cylinder, like, you know, like the DOZER blade hits a rock and really pushes and puts a bunch of pressure on the cylinder, it doesn't put all that pressure on the actual rod seal, the main seal in that piston, or in the actual gland there. And so Caterpillar has their own specific different ones here. So I went to the pages and started looking through them, and I think at one point in time this was either replaced or whatever, but so we go back here and they've got these one-piece style. That's similar to what's in there now. But right here is a Caterpillar specific bronze-filled PTFE seal rubber engineerizer, or Energizer. I can't read today. So we come over here and we've got a bronze filled PTFE seal rubber Energizer. So it doesn't look exact because this on the picture here looks just as thick as this. And it's not just as thick as this, but essentially I think all the rubber is just a buffer to allow some play for movement. I don't know if it should fill that space. In that picture it doesn't, or it does, I mean. There's a couple other ones. These ones are O-ring based, so they've got an O-ring on the outside of that bronze filled buffer. That one is an O-ring style. And that is a one piece, essentially, a little bit more complicated. So I could probably reach out to them. I could probably get that style, or even Cat's version, which, let's see, 1.5, 2 1/16, 0.15. So that's actually going to be a little thicker. I haven't measured the actual gap in there, but I know this is 0.128. So I'm going to try. Initially I thought this was all bronze, but it is a flexible seal. It does have some give to it. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to get it in there without completely destroying it, but we're going to give it a shot because I have them, and honestly, it's part of their kit. So I'm kind of thinking that this machine was rebuilt, or this cylinder was rebuilt at one time, and they literally used what they had instead of going with the actual Cat specific. Cat also could have changed their design and been putting something more updated into it as well. I don't really know. But let's go with this, try and get it in there without destroying it. If it goes in, everything else will go in fine. And I don't, let's just give it a shot, I guess. I know this fits because I did put this piece in. Maybe I need to heat it up. I really didn't know if this seal could take a seal install tool. I still don't actually, but we're giving it a shot. I guess I got it in. It's definitely in there. Right down in there. Feels like it's working. All right. Well, maybe we do have the right seal. All right, now this guy. The little open section always faces pressure. So pop this on here like this. Flip it around and make a little kidney bean out of it. And you drop it down in there. Just like so. We got that, both inner seals in. Guess we got the inner seal and the buffer. And this wiper. This should work. Oh, it even says outward on it. Huh. Sweet. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure because the metal doesn't come all the way down. It's got like another lip in there. So this one says outward. Sweet. That makes it nice. Alright, one more. Put our backer ring on first, and there's a little cupped side to it. That cupped side faces the O-ring. You want your backer ring away from the pressure, essentially on the opposite side of it. There we go. Fully rebuilt. I am really surprised about that inner buffer. I was worried about having to wait. Got the cylinder torn apart outside. They came through. They gave me the right stuff. I don't think there's been a single time that they haven't. So, absolutely awesome company to work with. Let's get this put back together. Alright, so I'm looking at this eye here. It's got this bushing, bearing they call it. And I'm measuring it, and I'm getting 39.82, 39.9 or 38.94. The ID should be 38.506. So, and the other thing is when you put the pin in, there is a little bit of play. And what's weird is I thought, oh man, I just hadn't seen grease in forever. This pin is not greasable. That is literally just for pulling it out, like we did with the slide hammer. And this, I thought, okay, maybe the greaser got broken. That was just a center from when they were turning it on the lathe. There's no hole in that bearing for grease. I don't understand why Cat did that, other than to make it easy on maintenance with regards to not having to grease it. I don't know. I mean, I kind of want to grease it. So, I don't know. When it was on the machine, it felt tight. And maybe there's just, I don't know, that amount would be play you'd have in the blade. These are, let's see, how much are they? Looks like they're like $15 a piece. I'm seeing $30 on eBay, 15, $16. So they can be replaced for pretty cheap. And actually, I mean, we don't have to do it now. It would be easier to be able to press it out, but yeah, I don't know. Should I do it now? Should I do it later? Should I never do it? I think I'm gonna leave it. I want to get this machine to be able to be used first before we start putting a bunch of time and effort in some other things. So we need to get the hydraulics working, and then we need to get it turning. So let's keep going with the hydraulics. So when I'm reassembling, I like to use this hydraulic stop leak stuff because it's just real thick. It's like molasses. And just kind of stays put until hydraulic oil gets all up in there. Okay, I have a little blue Loctite on this bolt. Now we go take it, put it back in the machine, tighten the nut up, and then we put it back together. There's definitely some play in that. Not a lot, but definitely worth maybe doing. Pins and bushings, but not today. Almost thinks there should be a spacer there. Guess it didn't have one before, but well, there's 2 hydraulic lines I didn't replace. That one needs to be replaced, about to blow. This one looks newish, but not real high quality. Well, we'll deal with those later. Well, that wasn't very tight. This one leaks like crazy. How am I going to do this one with the blade? Yeah, baby, leverage. Leverage. So it's kind of hard to get at and work on this cylinder where it's at. So we're going to move it, pull it all the way out. I have the whole blade suspended under a couple of jacks, screw jacks. Screw jacks are the kind of jacks you can literally lift houses up with. Okay. All right, so I took this cylinder out. It's already ready to be rebuilt, but I'm going to use its slot here to pin this here. Now, See the separation right here? Awesome. So this is what it looks like when your main gland seal disintegrates. This is literally the one that keeps all the oil in. Does all the sealing, and it should not do that. There's what's left of it. Looks like this inner one is also that plastic type. Who knows? There's a chance these are original. I really don't know. This pick set is awesome. Like, there's so many different styles. I guess there's only 8 styles, but they are like perfect for every little thing you need to do. If one doesn't work, another one does every time. Come on. This one is also pretty destroyed. There we go. Glad I started with that other cylinder, because then I could actually see the seals and everything and compare them. If I had started with this one, these cylinder seals are just so bad that it would have been hard to compare against. But all of the cylinders are the same. They aren't the same length, but they take the same seals, same seal kits. I like this style glove, but they always get so soaked in oil. So I think I'm going to heat up some oil, or actually it's probably some water, and I'm going to get this warm. I do not want to damage it. I don't like how I put it in last time on the other cylinder. This rubber seal is fine. That one will go in there all by itself before this one. But I don't have extras, and I don't really want to have to wait to get another one if I break it. Threw this water in the microwave real quick. Let it sit in here for a minute or two. Hopefully it'll make it easier to get in. While we wait for that, let's get this put together. Actually, let me clean it real quick. There we go. That did drop in there a heck of a lot easier.
Beautiful. All right, let's get the rest of it in. Got to make sure to polish your shaft. Don't want any problems with the shaft. Inside and out.
may be no grease zerks, but I'm gonna pack a bunch of grease in here. I'm dropping everything today. So here's what it looks like when the outer dust seal just completely disintegrates. It is completely gone. And I'm actually quite surprised because when I pulled out the actual main seal there from inside, it wasn't all disintegrated. It was starting to get there, but it wasn't gone. Neither was that part in there. Hey, look. Oh, sweet. I didn't know that had a part number on it. So CAT 6J9733 is that inner buffer ring that we are replacing with this two-piece design. I didn't actually see that when I pulled it out. 6J9733, 6J9733, yeah. So that is an actual CAT part. All of these that I found are actual CAT part numbers. You know, even like these there, these O-rings say CAT on them. And I could read it if I wanted to. But, so whoever did rebuild this, if it's been rebuilt, it also may not have ever been rebuilt, used all CAT parts. But we are not. Too expensive. So that's just the inner metal ring. That's how clean I like to get it. I don't like to leave rust underneath it. I'll spray that out with brake cleaner and we'll get it rebuilt. All right, got these last two seals that got them sitting in this water. I don't know. One more. All right, that's the last one. So I've got these two cylinders. We'll throw them back together. We'll put them on. All right, so right here on the rod, there's some scrapes and scratches that I can feel with my finger. I don't feel any real high spots. I mean, a little bit maybe. So I think I'm going to hit it with a little bit of 220 grit. And then I've got some Scotch-Brite. And what we're going to do, as long as it's below the rod, it won't damage the seals. But what will happen is oil will be left in those grooves every time the cylinder gets that far in. And I don't even know if this cylinder gets this far in ever. But I don't really want to take a chance. So what my thought is, what I usually do, is I take fingernail polish and basically paint it into the grooves, let it dry, and then it creates a little layer. And after we dry it, we slightly sand it to be totally flush. So there's a better picture of kind of those grooves. I mean, that's like 3/4 of an inch, 1/2 an inch, 3/8 of an inch. So this rod definitely hit something in its life. You got to be careful doing this. And I always usually like to sand with the rod, not ever sideways. Then I've got a Scotch-Brite on this angle grinder here. Get all the oil and grease off of it. All right. Now you do it just like you paint your nails, right? Shake it up, get the brush, brush it on. We are using Silver Storm here. I put it on a little thick. You can always sand it down, and you can literally always add more too. I didn't find any other rods that we've rebuilt so far that needed this. This is the only one that I thought was worth doing. So we're gonna let that dry. We're gonna go get one of the other cylinders put back in, and then we'll come back and finish this thing off. There's a balance between way too much grease and not enough. And I'm probably on the way too much grease side. But I don't think this thing's ever been greased. At some point I'm going to need to do these pins and bushings. We're just not doing it today. Copper ionized every one of these, and I replaced them with new bolts. Alright, now this is dry, we can sand on it a little bit. I might have put it on a bit thick. I don't think it's quite dried yet. See, that's already way better. I think we're going to have to add a little bit more to that one. This time I'm going to try and be a little more accurate. This time I'm using 400 grit sandpaper. Night and day difference, so much more smooth. I'm gonna leave it like that. Barely feel it. It's not perfect, but beyond re-rodding it, replacing this entire rod, that's as good as I'm gonna get it. Alright, let's throw this one back on. Alright, so I'll just show you inside the cylinder. Every single one of them looked about that good. Still see some of the original cross hatching. You know, they look amazing. So totally pumped to see that I was able to get every single cylinder apart without any issues, and none of them had any major internal issues either. So let's get this last one in, and then we'll get some hydraulic fluid in it and give it a start. There's our hydraulic filter. This is the hydraulic tank here. This is what's supposed to tell you how much oil is in it, but it's dirty. I'm kind of debating. We're low on hydraulic fluid. I just don't know how low. There's a little cover here that would allow me access to that, and I kind of just want to wipe it clean. I need to figure out how much oil we have in there. If I have lower than this cover, I'll probably take the cover off, and then I can get in there, clean that gauge off for me, and then put it all back together. It's great. Looks like it's RTV'd. Not a gasket, but whatever. Alright, so I'm going to see if I've got a filter for that, and then we're going to check how much oil's in this. So this is our hydraulic tank here. Let's see what we got for fluid. We don't have much. So, yeah. There's only a couple inches. I'd say 2 inches. So we're definitely low enough to take that cover off. And we're not going to lose a lot when we change the filter. Sweet. So that's a drain for the hydraulic filter housing so that we don't make a mess, even though I've been making messes all day. I hope that stops soon, because we're getting a bit full. Oh, made a mess. Oh boy. One R0719. My filter does not look that old.
But I've had this thing for a few years now, and I've never changed it, so we're going to change it. There is a gasket. Not sure why they use the RTV. That hydraulic tank looks so clean. So good to see that. So there's 4 nuts that hold this thing on. And I should be able to take it out. I don't really want to take it out, but I'm going to try and reach in there with one of these brushes and see if I can't get up into it. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Sweet, you can see through it now. It even says add on the line. Got the cover back in. So I threw the filter back in. The filter looked really, really good. And at this moment, I don't have another, but now that I know what the number is, I'm gonna order one and we'll get one of those coming. But for now, I wanna run it. So we're gonna put that back in. We're gonna fill it back up with fluid, which I need to go get some more. And then we should be good to go in regards to actually giving this thing a start and trying out all the functions. But man, we got a lot done today. Got the cylinders rebuilt, all put back in, and looking great. Next up, I do also want to give this thing a quick pressure wash, get all this oil and grease off, and be able to actually spot leaks. And then there's all these covers that go on all these hard lines down here, and I've got them all sitting over there. I need to chase a bunch of the actual bolt holes and possibly replace a bunch of bolts because a bunch of them are just kind of rotten. At some point, like I was saying, I do want to do pins and bushings. They are loose and they're not, you know, I can't really shake it right now, but it is one of those things that I would like to test this machine. I haven't actually put this blade into dirt yet or done any dozing with it. I have owned it for probably a couple years now, and since I got it, it's kind of sat because I've had a lot of other projects, but I've been wanting to get this thing up and running and usable. Now that we have all the hydraulic cylinders, that was a big one. But rebuilding them all was a big deal, getting all those done. All the hydraulic lines have been replaced, other than this one, and its corresponding to on that side. I did not even see those. So it's a tiny little line that jumps from here to there underneath that cover. So for now, we're going to leave them, and if we blow them, we'll replace them. And there's a bunch of others in the belly of the machine that, you know, maybe we'll do at some point, but let's just start ticking on getting the major things ready. Like now we have all the leaks from the hydraulic system fixed. Let's get this thing turning on both tracks. Let's put it in the dirt and we'll test it out. And then we'll start doing some of the other detail things like, you know, other hydraulic lines or the track tensioners if they've got issues, or, you know, stuff like this blade. Somebody used it to, you know, they hooked a chain to the top edge of it a million times. And so I'd like to straighten that back out, heat it up, bang it back out. There's a hole in the blade there and another tiny little hole in the blade there. That those are probably small enough I could probably just weld them and it'll be good enough for now. That plate is cracked here and here, so that cutter really should be replaced. I'm not going to replace it right now, but the rest of them look like they're in pretty good shape. So I'd like to straighten stuff like, you know, that little thing there, that one there. What I would like to do, there's this huge flat spot right here. I want to add a couple hooks. Put a hook here, maybe put a hook over here, because it totally makes sense to be able to use this thing to pull stuff, and I want to make a fixtured way of doing that that's not hooking something on the edge of this blade. I don't like that, and you know, it is what it is. So this seat here, I've had it for quite some time. It's just been sitting on the machine. I want to get that actually bolted to it, and maybe at some point I'll remake these armrests here
I have the foam, I have the actual piece that I took off, but for now, let's just make this thing push dirt. We're getting there, a little bit at a time with this little baby dozer. So for tonight, I'm done. That's all I've got. I will be back first thing tomorrow. We'll get some hydraulic fluid in it and start getting everything buttoned back together so we can give it a try. So there's not a lot of hydraulic fluid left in this thing, so I don't know the quality of it. I don't know how long it's been in there. We're just going to change it. Take the rest out. There's a drain plug is right here. More than I thought. So I got a bucket here from that John Deere that we worked on, and it's pretty clean fluid. This pan that I used to catch this, I just cleaned it out. So we're going to put it in here. Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, every bit of that oil that came out of that thing looked really great. And didn't have any water in it. Found a few little specks of RTV from that cover gasket, but other than that, really happy to see that. I probably just pulled out maybe a gallon, maybe a gallon and a half or 2 gallons total. Probably less, but my thought is it's worth just putting all new fluid in it. Since we're this far in, it's this low, you might as well. So I'm going to let that drip out as much as it can, and I'll put this plug in. We'll get the we'll get new oil in it. All right, I was able to get a Cat filter. One thing I will say about Cat is, if Cat is the only place you can get the part, they cost a lot. If you can get it somewhere else, they're pretty competitive. So when it comes to their filters, when it comes to their fluids, usually they're pretty competitive. I don't usually use Cat fluids, but I try and use their filters if I can. The hydraulic oil filter for this machine from Cat was like $22 after tax. So a Donaldson or some of the other brands, they were like $25-30, and I wouldn't have been able to get it today. So I went to the dealer, got the filter, picked up a few more filters for it as well. We'll do those at some point, but for now, let's get this one changed. Check the engine real quick. Oil. Man, we are right on the full mark. Like dead on. That's awesome. I need to get a new gasket, one of these like rubber pieces that goes here. I need to get a new rubber boot for the valve cover breather tube because it's starting to crack up and fall apart. A lot of this rubber is in rough shape, but we're going to run it for now. All right, I just checked the coolant. We're good on coolant. Oil looks good. Let me grab a battery and we'll start this baby up. All right, I got the jumper pack hooked up to it. One thing about this machine, it's weird. It's a 12-volt machine, but if I try and start it on 12 volts on a cold start, it does not want to start. It doesn't spin over fast enough. I jump it over to 24 volts, it starts up like that. And you don't need a battery to run this machine. Once it's operating, you don't need a battery at all. I don't know if the gauges are going to operate with or without a battery yet. I haven't run this thing enough. But let's just get it started. We'll operate the blade. We'll get the cylinders all full of hydraulic fluid. And we're probably going to have to add more. Right now I've got it about right there on the sight glass. So that's going to drop when those cylinders fill with fluid. But I've got both side covers off. Another thing I've noticed is, see this oil dripping down here on the fuel filter? It's coming out of the exhaust right there. So what I'm pretty sure that is what's called wet stacking. Wet stacking is when an engine doesn't get hot enough to truly run and operate and ends up building up residue and whatnot in the exhaust, and it can actually be very bad. I am curious on your thoughts on what do I do about that? If this engine has had quite a bit of wet stacking, is it the muffler needing to be replaced? I mean, do I just need to get it really hot and run it? What do you think? Because I definitely don't want to ruin something, but I'm seeing, you know, definitely a bunch of oil dripping out of the exhaust, and that's just not a normal thing, but it's coming out like right there. That's where it's coming. I don't know. We'll dive into that when if we have an issue or later, but let's get it started up and we'll check out the function of the blade. All right, so got it on 12 volts. I'm gonna show you what it does. So it barely wants to crank on 12. So the thing I love about these jump and carry 1224s is that to switch it to 24, pull that out, you smack it into 24, and you're ready to go. No more pulling batteries, no more any of that stuff. These things are awesome. Now let's see how it cranks now. Cranks way better. So we're gonna give it a little bit of fuel. Oh yeah, one more thing. I have these, so I have a clamp that I put here on this flapper valve. It's just like one of these channel clamps, and it prevents this from getting stuck up. See how this one's kind of doesn't want to come back down? I either need to get a new one or I need to fix this one. I'm pretty sure this one's brand new and it's just sticky. And I was worried that the wind might take it up one day and boom, it gets left like that, and then I end up with a ton of water in the engine. Or down through the exhaust. I don't know. Like, I really didn't want that to happen, but you have to remember to remove it when you're going to start. So, all right, let's give this a shot. All right, here we go. Nope, the cables are getting warm. Maybe that's it. Maybe there's a draw. Just give it a snort of the good stuff. I'm going to take this right to the starter. All right, try it again. Maybe this jumper pack's getting tired. All right, I got it on 12 volts directly to the starter. Let's see if it starts on 12. Still doesn't want to. All right, 24 it is. All right, let's try it on 24. It's like delayed going into second. There we go. The seals on this track tensioner, they're not great. So I don't know how much longer that's going to last. We'll tighten it up to that point. I did the other side the same. All right, let's walk around this thing and kind of talk about it. So, got both tracks tensioned a little tighter. I do think that at some point soon I need to replace the seals in the track tensioners, and I have those. I just haven't had time to do them. The filter assembly, no leaks in that area at all. We are literally sitting right about there on fluid in our gauge. It's kind of hard to show you. But the engine runs great, other than it is smoking quite a bit. Now, I don't know if it's just got, see all this wet stacking, all this oil dripping out of that, right out of the exhaust pipe. And so I'm not sure if it's just burning that off. I'm not sure if we have a leak that is causing air to get sucked in. And here's why I say that. Right here, this is the throttle shaft on the injection pump. There is a drip. I can't quite tell if it's fuel or oil. I think it's got to be fuel because I don't think this has, I think the injection pump is completely lubricated by the diesel fuel. So that seal right there definitely looks like it has been replaced previously. I don't know how recently. It's got to be quite some time because it sat a long time before I walked up to this machine. The other thing is there's a bunch of play just right here in this, between where the linkage ends and where the throttle cable connects. So right in this connector there's a bunch of play. So when I put it on high throttle, I turn that throttle all the way up, I'm missing about, I don't know, a quarter inch of travel. And when I manually push it, it gives me quite a few more RPM. I'd say 300 to 500 more RPM, which is a big deal when you're using a piece of machinery. So I want to get that figured out. The other thing that I noticed is that the exhaust pipe is broken. So right there, that piece is disconnected from the muffler. So there was a ton of smoke coming out of the engine bay, and I narrowed it down to literally, you can see all the black soot and debris all over this. I wondered where it was coming from. It's coming right out of there. I'd touch it, but it is smoking hot. The gauges, I haven't had a battery on it while it's running, but I did see that the engine oil pressure goes all the way to normal, and I can't tell if this one moved at all for the water temp. The hour meter, this engine literally has 0 hours on it. So yeah, that's great. I want to get that working so we can have at least something to base changing fluids and filters on. The amp meter, obviously it's not working because we have no battery. I don't think the converter temp worked at all. The gauges is definitely something I want to get, and I think some of them will probably be fixed by just having a battery connected to it all the time. The other big issue is this track will not brake. And so the way I've been moving this thing around is in forward, I use it to turn one direction, then I put it in reverse, and I turn the opposite direction. And right down here, this here, when you push this, there's a lever attached to it down there, and you can basically push that down, let go of the pedal, and it will set a brake, essentially set a parking brake. There is a piece, part of the bracket is literally worn through. And so I can take that apart. I'm gonna basically fabricate a new piece, weld it in there, and it should replace and get us to the point where we have a parking brake, a usable one anyway. And with a dozer, you have a blade. You can put the blade in the dirt. It's not that big a deal, but it would be nice to have, especially since, you know, I've got young kids and I don't really want anything bad to happen. So the other big thing is that I think it's got 2 speeds in reverse and then 1, 2, 3 in forward. So when I come back and I see all the slop in this, so if I put that down, or I should pull that back up. So this, so I'm in neutral here, and I come down to, that's first gear. All that slop, that's all first. And then there's second gear, all that slop. And then there's not enough travel to even get into third. So I need to figure out what linkages I need to fix, replace, bush, something like that. The other thing is that it goes right into first, no problem. But then when I come down here and try and go into second, there's like a 20-second lag. And the only reason I even know it goes into second is I was sitting here messing with the camera, and I had it down here in this, and all of a sudden I started going forward faster than I would have normally gone in first gear. And so that only happened on accident, because normally when you're shifting, you want immediate, right? You want it to go right in. So my first thought was check the transmission fluid. And there's a dipstick right below the seat here. I checked it, and it is like 3/4 of an inch over the full mark while running. So I don't know. If you got ideas on what that could be or what the cause of that is, that would be awesome. I really haven't had any time to look into it. That's just in second. I haven't even been able to get it into third to see if it'll go into third yet because these linkages are so sloppy. So as you've seen before, like, we already had to mess with this just to get it to the point where we are now. I need to dive into that more, get it tighter to the point where it's going to actually work right. I wish, so this, for the throttle, you twist this thing. That's how you get your speed. So fuel, you turn it all the way this way and it's off, no fuel, that shuts the machine off. Turn it this way and all the way that way, it gives you your RPM. Well, I think it's the newer ones, they have another lever right here. It's a completely separate throttle. And then this is just your forward, neutral, reverse for your hydrostatic transmission. I really wish I had that. And I guess I could probably rig up a cable that goes directly to the injection pump and then put my own lever in somewhere. I don't know. Maybe another option might be this cover, to try and find a different cover from a newer one and see if I can make it fit. I don't know. That is definitely an issue. I would like to get all the gears so that they operate. I only think I have 1 reverse speed. I'll have to double check. I think it's supposed to have 2. But the blade works awesome. So all of the work we did to rebuild all of these hydraulic cylinders was perfect. Like, every function works exactly how it should. The machine moves the blade the way it should. We don't see any leaks. I left all the covers off because I wanted to be able to check all of these lines and all of the fittings and everything so that I could make sure that we didn't have any leaks, because we took a lot apart. We loosened a lot of fittings, and then you never know when you kind of forgot one, and I've done that many times. But But so far, so good. Everything there is looking absolutely great. Still a little ways to go with the machine. As for today, we've got the little Baby Dozer doing all of the functions it should be for the blade, so I'm totally pumped to see that. This little Baby Dozer definitely needs more work, but man, we got quite a bit done. We got it to the point where it runs, it moves, the blade works perfectly. You know, we got to get it turning right. We got to get the transmission figured out, some linkages. Possibly the injection pump needs to be gone through, possibly injectors. I don't know. There's a lot more to do on this thing, but as of right now, that's all I've got for you tonight. I hope you enjoyed the progress on the old D3, my little Baby Dozer. If you enjoy the channel, I really appreciate it. I really do. And it is an honor that you enjoy watching me work on old junk. So, thanks for saving a little bit of history with me, and I'll catch you on the next video here on the Baby Dozer. You guys have a great one.